The situation in Israel has taken a dramatic turn after reports emerged of a nationwide power outage following what security sources describe as a major attack on one of the country's most critical electrical facilities. According to regional intelligence officials, the blackout began after the largest power substation in Israel was struck in what is being described as a coordinated strike allegedly linked to Iran. The disruption occurred almost simultaneously across several major regions of the country, causing the national electricity grid to collapse within a very short period of time. Within minutes, entire cities were plunged into darkness as power systems shut down across large parts of the country. Security sources say the strike targeted strategic energy infrastructure, specifically a central power substation responsible for distributing electricity to a significant portion of Israel's national grid. This facility functions as a key node in the country's electricity transmission system. When it was disabled, the impact quickly spread through the rest of the network, triggering cascading failures across multiple distribution lines. As the system attempted to protect itself from further damage, automatic safety mechanisms shut down additional transmission channels. However, instead of isolating the problem, the protective shutdown accelerated the collapse of the national power grid. In a matter of minutes, most of Israel's electrical infrastructure reportedly stopped functioning. Major cities including Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa experienced total blackouts. Streetlights went dark, office towers lost power, and transportation systems relying on electricity came to an immediate halt. Reports also indicated that several command centers, communication networks, and public infrastructure systems were directly affected by the outage. Early assessments suggest that the targeted substation plays a critical role in connecting electricity generated at major power plants to the national transmission network. When the facility was destroyed, electricity could no longer flow reliably through the grid. Israeli security officials say the damage to the facility is severe. Several massive transformers, the core components responsible for regulating and distributing electricity, were reportedly destroyed by powerful explosions. These transformers are not standard equipment. They are extremely large, highly specialized machines that cannot be replaced quickly. Manufacturing and installing new units can take months, sometimes even longer. Because of this, restoring full electricity distribution across the country could prove to be a complicated and time-consuming process. Energy industry analysts say the economic impact of such a large-scale power disruption could be enormous. When an entire national grid shuts down, the effects ripple through nearly every sector of society. Factories stop production, transportation systems fail, communication networks collapse, financial institutions lose access to digital infrastructure. Initial estimates suggest the total economic damage could reach the equivalent of around 300 trillion Indonesian rupiah when infrastructure damage, economic disruption, and system recovery costs are taken into account. Public infrastructure has also been heavily affected. Hospitals across Israel were forced to switch to emergency generators to maintain critical operations. Data centers, airports, and military installations also relied on backup power systems to keep essential services running. However, some reports indicate that not every facility has sufficient backup energy reserves to operate for extended periods of time. This has raised concerns among emergency planners who fear prolonged outages could create additional crises in sectors that depend heavily on stable electricity. The blackout has triggered widespread concern within Israel because the national power grid is considered one of the country's most vital pieces of infrastructure. When the energy system fails, the effects are not limited to civilian life. They can also influence military readiness and national defense capabilities. International security analysts note that attacks on energy infrastructure can produce enormous strategic consequences without directly targeting military bases or combat units. Just hours after the blackout began, the consequences were already being felt across nearly every part of Israeli society. Economic activity slowed dramatically. Transportation systems stopped functioning normally. Public services struggled to maintain operations, and communication networks experienced widespread disruptions. Israel's National Emergency Authority confirmed that power outages were not limited to central regions of the country, but had spread into northern and southern areas as well. Major metropolitan areas, including Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa, experienced near-total loss of electricity for hours following the initial attack on the power substation. In Tel Aviv, the country's primary financial and technology hub, business activity came to an abrupt halt. Office buildings lost electricity, elevators stopped working, and corporate computer systems became inaccessible. Many companies were forced to suspend operations temporarily because their digital infrastructure could not function without stable power. Israel's main international airport also experienced operational disruptions. Navigation systems, baggage handling operations, and runway lighting had to rely on backup generators. Several flights were delayed, while airport operators worked to ensure safety systems remained operational under emergency conditions. Urban transportation systems also faced immediate problems. Electric rail lines stopped running, forcing authorities to evacuate passengers from trains that had stopped along their routes. Traffic congestion quickly increased as traffic lights failed across multiple major intersections. Hospitals throughout the country entered emergency operating mode. Although many medical centers have backup generators, continuous reliance on those systems raises serious concerns about fuel availability and the stability of temporary power supplies. Medical staff were reportedly working under intense pressure to ensure that life-saving equipment, including ventilators and surgical machines, continued functioning. Communication systems were also affected. Several cellular transmission towers stopped operating after their backup power reserves were depleted. As a result, phone and internet services became unreliable in many areas, complicating coordination between government agencies, security forces, and emergency responders. Meanwhile, large industrial sectors were forced to shut down. Manufacturing plants, technology facilities, and chemical processing centers could not continue production without reliable electricity. The sudden halt in operations is expected to be one of the largest contributors to the economic losses currently being calculated by financial authorities. Beyond the economic damage, the blackout has created a significant strategic crisis. With much of the national power infrastructure offline, several vital systems, including transportation, communication, and certain security functions, have been severely disrupted. Israeli Security Cabinet reportedly convened an emergency meeting shortly after the nationwide blackout began. However, due to disruptions in communication networks, many officials had to rely on alternative channels, including military satellite communications and secure radio networks. Coordination between government ministries, intelligence agencies, and military leadership became significantly more difficult under these conditions. Some officials reportedly conducted crisis discussions using backup communication systems normally reserved for wartime situations. The blackout has also affected Israel's military readiness. Several military bases that normally receive electricity from the civilian power grid were forced to rely on emergency generators. These generators are capable of maintaining essential systems, but they are not designed to support large-scale operations indefinitely. Certain training exercises were reportedly suspended, and logistical coordination between units experienced temporary disruptions. Military radar systems and surveillance networks also faced operational strain as technicians worked to maintain power to critical equipment. Security experts warn that during periods of major infrastructure disruption, a nation may become temporarily more vulnerable to external threats. Social impacts are also beginning to emerge across several cities. Public transportation shutdowns caused widespread delays, while traffic congestion worsened due to disabled traffic control systems. Shopping centers, supermarkets, and banks closed temporarily because electronic payment systems could not function without electricity. These closures triggered panic buying in some areas as residents rushed to secure essential supplies. Hospitals remain under significant pressure as they attempt to maintain operations using limited generator capacity. Some reports suggest that several medical facilities in densely populated regions are approaching critical limits in their emergency fuel supplies. At the same time, economic losses continue to rise. Manufacturing operations remain halted, supply chains have been disrupted, and digital services remain partially offline. Analysts estimate that the overall economic damage could reach